Hey y'all, come on in. Welcome back. Today in this video be part 2 of Mr. Calvert's filigree belt. What I want to try to do, still trying to figure out how to do this, where I can get you guys the best angle. As I explained in the video yesterday, I try to work from the center belt, or the center of the belt out towards the edges. Once I establish my center line, if they want a name in it, if they don't want a name in it, it ain't so bad. But if they want a name in it, you gotta really be kinda careful with how you do things. I'll try to get you guys set up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this or not. I'll try to get you guys set up. I'm right-handed. Let's see here. I'm going to use my anvil like I did in one of the earlier beginner videos. I don't use my tooling block. Judy, would you center, see how the camera looks and see if we can get it positioned where they can see as much as we possibly can. Let's see, where's my letter V?
That's about as good as it's going to get, sweetheart.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. I'll try to, I'm going to have to stand up over the top of it, so I'm going to be blocking quite a bit so I can get this letter centered on there, so I don't know just how much of it I'm going to be able to show. But I'll try to get as much as I can. How does that look?
You'll have to get it.
Yeah. We'll try to go with that, and then we'll see.
That way, if you stand up, this should give them some.
I mean, it's right here in my hand, Judy. Is that how? I mean, I'm going to be blocking just almost all of it. I really don't want to, but this is all hand done, so there's not a whole lot you can do. All right, so we'll have the last name. Like I said, I'll start from the center out once I get my layout. And then, so the center of this one's going to be the name. It'll be Calvert. And if you don't like these letters that are in these stamp sets, you can go places, probably online, I don't know. You can probably Google it and get a vast array of, I need R and T. You can get a vast array of styles, numbers, symbols, probably everything you want. So be a Western style, so we're going to kind of stay with this, what I've got. what I want to try to do today, in this video anyway, is I want to get the name in, and maybe using this craft aid that I showed in one of the other videos, see if I can start getting the pattern, the actual design laid out. That's what I'm going to try to do anyway. So let's get this thing wet. Let's see if we can set some letters. Like I said, I use my anvil instead of, I've got a marble tooling block that I use for my tooling. I don't use that for the heavy impacts, for snaps, rivets, setting letters, things of that nature that will require a lot heavier impact with the mallet. I don't want to chip or crack or even possibly break my marble. So I got one of these little hobby anvils. I know Tandy used to sell them. Whether they still do or not, I don't know. It's been over 40 years since I got this one. Hobby Lobby somewhere. You can probably just go online and see if you can find your little hobby anvil. Alright, so we're going to need to get it.
We still have a mini anvil.
So we're going to, and Judy just said Tandy still does offer that little anvil. And they're really great. Very heavy for their size. Here's my hand. Okay, so we're going to need to get it wet. And as I also explained in the previous videos, you're going to want to wet both sides of it, front and back. It's a feel thing. Don't get it just soaking, dripping wet, or you're going to get to wait for it to dry out a little bit. But like a sponge, you want to still see the water soak in to the leather. And on this belt grade, this is probably a 7/8 ounce, I'm guessing. Well, I'm pretty well sure it is, based on the livestock tack that I used to make. So it's going to take quite a bit of, quite a bit of water, but it's just a feel thing. If water does not soak into it, then you're too much. So even if you go too heavy at first, just give it, 10, 15, 20 minutes, kind of dry out a little bit, and you'll be okay. I explained that on a dry, raw, untreated piece of leather, I use a number 2 pencil to get my layout. The reason being, when it's dry, you can come back in with the eraser like this, and it's a whole lot easier there to recover your pencil marks, and they're not going to show up. If you try to make impressions on it once it gets wet, anything that touches it is there for the life of it. You cannot get it back. Okay, so we're ready to get it wet. And adults, moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, if you want to continue this along with your kids, my earlier videos were some ideas on the basics of it. The starter kits that come with tools, a mallet, everything you need to get started with it. They used to come with a sponge. It's been over 40 years since I opened one of those kits, so I really couldn't tell you now what's in them and what isn't. I recommend, if you want to start doing this as a hobby, just go down to the Dollar General, Kroger, Walmart, wherever. Get you one of these dollar just spray bottle of water. Because I promise you that sponge over time will collect dirt, grime, dust from there, whatever, and it will start to embed in your project when you try to get it wet. It's going to leave stains, it's going to leave marks, things that you don't want. So I get a spray bottle, and some may say, well, why not just wet the area that you're going to be working on? Okay, let me tell you something about that. After years of doing this, if you only wet the area that you're working and not your entire project, every time, even if you have to stop for the night, that's fine. Find a place to put it away where our two cats are not going to sleep on it or play with it or whatever. It will dry out, but then you can re-wet it. But unless you have FDA approved, filtered, strained, homogenized, whatever water, whatever is in that water, whether it be from the ground, whatever they need to use there to make city water drinkable, I don't know what all goes into it. But if you only wet this area, whatever is in that water itself will do the same thing that sponge will do. But if you always wet the entire project, front and back, no matter how big it is, every time, then it will dry out evenly and you're not going to have those watermarks. That's what I call them. Watermarks are actually stains with what is ever in that water. Alright, so let's get it wet and let's put a name in. Now I hold this off to the side like I said before because I don't want to spray everything on my table. So give me just a minute here. Now this is a heavier piece of leather, so it's going to take me a second. And it's also 42 inches long. I'm only 5 foot tall. That's a big boy. And you'll see it turn a darker color. That's alright, it's just soaking that water up. Alright, got the front side of it. Now we'll get the back side of it. And I'll go over again what you want to look for on the back side of your project whenever you're tooling. We'll get to the pattern part of it. How you know when your swivel knife is cut deep enough. A lot of this is feel. Just have to get used to it. Different thicknesses of leather. So you're going to take water accordingly. Hoping I can stay sitting down to do a 42-inch belt, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to or not. .42-inch waist and what, 5 foot tall? That's what, 53 inches? This gentleman is a big country boy. That's all right though. We'll get it handled. Alright, now you see how we're a little bit darker? I'll show you the comparison. It's a scrap piece of leather that I used to sharpen my swivel knife on. Let's see if you can see the difference in the color now from the wet and the unwet. Alright, now that we have that, we're going to give it just a second there to kind of soak in. It'll get a lot more pliable. A lot easier to get along with. And I don't know, I'm trying to keep these videos to about a half hour. That's what my intent is. And I'm going to have to go a little bit more water. It's still soaking it up. Like I said, it's just a feel thing. You just have to get used to it. Alright, now placement of the letters. It's going to be good, folks. Make sure you're not upside down, okay? Here's where the buckle is. That's going to go on your left hand side. Here's where the tongue of the belt is. It's going to go on your right hand side. Don't get to the end of your project, put a buckle in it just to realize you got the name upside down. Now it's time to double check yourself. So, last name Calvert. We have 7 letters. Middle letter is going to be V, as in Victor. You still see my pencil marks, I hope anyway, where the center line is. I want to try to see if you can find you a flat enough surface where you can lay the belt out its entire length. That helps you keep it straighter. And I've also got my border lines in here. Now once you get this first letter set, it's not too hard from then on. The way these things are made, they pretty well square up on each other. Also, the way they're made is these stamps they stay pretty evenly spaced. They do a good job. Take your plunger, beater upper thing. Now I'm going to have to stand up so I can get directly above it. Let me show you this on the back side of this letter, on all of them. Don't know how well you can make out, but they'll have the letter. This one is the letter V, so I don't know how well you can see that or not. But anyway, right down here where my finger is, you'll see the letter that it resembles on the back side of these stamps. Not only helps you center it up, but it also helps you make sure you're right side up on this thing. Now what I'm going to do with this very first one, these things are all pretty well centered, so just get them lined up. And they're not perfect. It's not a machine doing this. This is a human. And I'll put a fairly decent amount of pressure on it. Now my first impacts, I'm not going to go very heavy on it. All I want to do is get the impression of that letter on there. And what that tells me If I'm off a little bit, crooked or something like that, then you can come back in and kind of straighten it up. Now these letters, they will just kind of hold it to the side a little bit. What I'll do to get an even impact, if you can see me kind of rotate my wrist around a little bit. We're looking pretty good on that one. Now these letters will recenter themselves. I'm going to stand back up because we're going to have to hit this thing pretty good now. Don't try to do all of it at once. Come back in now. Now your thinner grades of leather, you're not going to hit it quite so hard. But you want to try to get an even impression. There we go. That's what I'm after right there. What I want to show you now is there's your letter V. But to know if you're going deep enough with your impressions is you want to turn it over, and you should be able to see that letter on the back side. No matter how thick this leather is, you just have to get used to knowing how hard to hit it. But that tells you that you're deep enough. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that letter V, and I'm going to work from the center out to spell this name. So I need an E on this side. I'm going to hold it down just a little bit, give it a light hit. Just making impressions, all we're doing. And you see the difference in it there. Got my spacing that I want. If you get something offline, a different type of letter, something of that nature, always try to leave about 3/8 of an inch in between the narrowest parts to get your spacing. Now I'm drying out, so let me re-wet it, and you're going to have to do this throughout the whole project. Once you get it wet the initial time, and it's not so bad. But you want to keep it in that wet state. Front and back every time. Now this is going to be a filigree pattern like I said, so Be a little bit. Be a little bit different. What I'm going to be doing is I'll be coming in order to do the filigree, is I'll be coming in between all these letters, and I'm going to be actually cutting out all of this background around the letters. Now these letters are going to be touching down here on the border. That's what's going to hold them in place. We'll see that a little bit more as we go along. So I'll put my V back in place until I get that E set. You can feel it just lightly. It'll locate itself again. And come in and hold it. Now we're going to hit it harder now. Need to go a little bit more on it. I'm going to go ahead and do it as if we're not doing a filigree. Need a little bit more up here in this corner. Okay, about what I want right there. And what I do, y'all can do it however y'all want to, whichever is easiest for you. But I'll spell the name of it out in front of me so I don't misspell it on the belt that I can never recover. But what I'll do, I'll just put the letters back up there. And I'll come over here. And this is just the way I do it. There's no law that says, okay, C-A-L-V, now I need the L. Like the sign up there says, imagination zone. This is your project, something you're making for somebody. You're putting your stamp on it. And then once you get one letter side, either side of the middle, then you can take the middle letter out of the equation. And on your thinner leathers, if you hit this hard enough, it will go all the way through, which you don't want to do that either. Do that a little bit more out here on the edge. And it looks like Rosie, one of our cats, is fixing to come join us. She just cannot leave it alone. Now that we no longer need the V, I just put it back in the case. That way I don't get them confused. Now if you want to, you can go all the way to the other side. Once you get that middle one placed. Now I need the A. And I stress again, double and triple check yourself. And once it makes that impression, it's done. Need a little bit heavier out here now. Okay, there's the A now. And put the L up. I like to just get them out of here, so that way I'm not going to just accidentally pick one of them up wrong. Now I'm going to put C in, letter C. Oops, I need the A back. I got to space the... We'll get our spacing. And what I do is, I'm a little short guy, so I try to stand up where I'm looking straight down on it, where I can see all of my marks. And keep it as straight as I can. Okay, there's the C now, so I don't need the A any longer. If you go online or whatever, not real. Okay, now we have that part of it. I don't need the C any longer. Like I said, I'd probably go a little bit heavier with these letters if I wasn't going to be cutting out the background behind them. All I need is just the impression of that leather, but I wanted to demonstrate for you. If I was not doing the filigree pattern, what you would need to look for. And we're starting to dry out a little bit again. Let's give you a good example of how often you need to wet this heavier stuff down. May ask, why don't you just do it dry? Well, you can make an impression in it, but it doesn't compress the leather fibers if it's dry, so it's not going to stay there. I'm not going to say it won't stay there forever, but it just won't be nearly as pronounced. It's what makes it last forever, is you're compressing those fibers within that leather. And they will never return to their natural state. It will become their natural state. Okay, now I don't need the E anymore. Let's put it back. Now, if I wasn't going to do the filigree style of belt on this one, where I'd be cutting out the background on it, then I'd actually set them a little bit harder than what I'm doing, if the truth be known. Because you'll come in and you can come in and you can color the letters. You can do a background around them. It's just what I try to do, well, not try to do, I need to do as much customer orders something, then that's what the customer gets. Like that wallet I just finished, Ricky's wallet. He didn't want it colored, he didn't want it stained, he wanted it left natural, just wanted his initials in it. Go back and watch 3-part series, Ricky's wallet. That's what it was. That's what he wanted. That's what he got. But in this case, as I said in the first video, it's going to be somewhat of a surprise to him. He knows he's getting one. Favorite color was blue. Wanted a little western-ish, not cowboys and Indian western theme, but a country boy, shall we say, theme. So I got a pattern with that. And then after that, his wife just pretty much let me go free rein on it after that. So I added my little touch to it. And I'll demonstrate the things that I added to it as we get a little bit closer to the end of it. Alright, done with the R now. I'll put it up. But see how hard I'm having to hit these things to make the impression. That's why I don't do it on my tooling block. if you need to hit an area a little bit more, and just kind of lean it that direction. And there you go. We have a last name. So we're done with the letters now. But that's it. And then what I'll do, I'm going to let it dry tonight. The only reason is I want to see, these craft aid patterns are made out of plastic. They're smooth on one side, but you can feel the pattern design on the other. Now that I've got the name in here, I'm going to see, when you're doing a filigree, I don't like to cut out a whole lot of area. Now I know we're going to have it in some areas along the L and the V, maybe from the V to the E. But I want to try to leave as much actual material. Now I'm going to back it with the colored leather, which will help. It'll be dyed in the color. I think he said blue was his favorite color, so that's what it's going. Yeah, blue. I don't want to weaken this along in here. So what I'm going to do with the pattern, I'm going to let it dry, because if I laid that plastic pattern on here now, just to see how everything was going to fit, say from the name out to where I'm going to end it, then it will leave the impression of that pattern, and I don't want to do that just yet. So I'm going to let it dry, then I'll come back in and I'll lay it out, and I'll get the spacing that I want on both sides of the name, and then I'll re-wet it, and then we'll go from there. So on the next video, part 3, we're going to do the pattern. We'll get it put on there. Then we'll take our swivel knife. I'll go over some of that with you, and we'll actually cut it out and get it ready to tool. Alrighty. So there's our name. If you look on the back of it, you can see the name Calvert. That's what you're looking for. You always want to be able to see, no matter how thick the leather is. That's why you have to get used to how hard to hit them. Hit your tools. May be able to tell that the A and the L, or the V, the L and the A and the C are a little bit heavier than what these are down here. If I'm not going to cut her out around it, then I'm going to make certain that I go deep enough where I've got a good constant impression all the way across. So with that, Judy and I like to always leave everybody with don't be mean to others. If you're not, don't say or do something to someone else. If you're not willing to treat Jesus that way, then we're all people. Let's not treat each other that way. And with that, I'll see you on part 3, and we'll get this thing laid out and get the pattern cut into it. Until then, see y'all next time.